What's up, Taiwan? I'm Joyce Tseng with news from here in Taiwan and around the world. Taiwan's military has issued a warning about the threat posed by China, citing Beijing's increased military coercion over the past year.
我们可以了解，中共是目前我们面临的最重要的一个国家安全的一个威胁。所以，不管是用偷袭的方式也好，或者是其他的文攻武吓的这些方式也好，国军对于中共所有的这些可能采取的行动，我们都做了非常缜密的分析跟观察。
Speaking at a press conference, Taiwan's military was responding to concerns that the war in Gaza could encourage China to take military action against Taiwan. That comes as 23 Chinese warplanes and 6 Navy ships were spotted around the country. One of China's aircraft carriers, the Shandong, is currently sailing in waters east of Taiwan, and analysts say that China could be getting ready to conduct large-scale exercises. A new electricity pricing scheme aimed at factories is on the way. It comes ahead of a presidential election with a looming energy crunch in the background. But as John Van Trieste reports, some industry groups don't think it will make a big difference.
The factories that power the country's economy are set for a change that could affect their bottom line. From November, the government is doubling so-called off-peak hours for big electricity users, times when power is cheaper, from 9 to 18. It hopes potential savings and a bigger selection of hours will convince factories to move peak production away from times when power is in high demand, easing pressure on the grid. Energy is a chronic problem for Taiwan. It depends heavily on imported fuel, and power consumption has jumped 10% in the past decade. 3 major blackouts in recent years have shown problems with the grid's resilience. Energy has also become a political issue in the lead-up to the presidential election, with debates over nuclear power dividing candidates. The Economy Ministry is upbeat about the new pricing schedule, promising savings to a range of big industrial sectors while evening out power plants' load.
工具机、机械业、铸造业、钢铁还有纺织等等，那他们就可以来做这样的调整，来降低他们的电费。那我们初估大概是有1.7万的高压用户可以来试用。
Those savings, up to 22 US cents per kilowatt hour, would quickly add up for heavy power users. But the reaction from the industrial sector has been muted. With the export orders they depend on down, some factories are concerned about more than their power bill.
没有这个诱因了，光看拍天这样子就在放无薪假的呀，还有什么电价有什么诱因？是到10块我嘛无来。
And there are those who say factories are already cutting back on power usage, and that in any case, peak or off-peak hours don't matter to factories that run 24 hours a day.
自动化的工厂，它本来就是24小时在操作了，监工的时间停下来，然后用利用的时间，那产量又减少。
So, with less than a day to go before it takes effect, it's uncertain just how big the impact of the new pricing schedule may be. Howard Zhang and John Van Trieste for TaiwanPlus.
Chinese state media says the remains of China's former premier Li Keqiang will be cremated later this week. Li, who served in the role for a decade, died from a heart attack last Friday. In the announcement, he was declared, quote, an outstanding revolutionary, statesman, and leader. But official reaction to his death has been otherwise muted, contrasting with public displays of mourning. To find out more about the reaction to Li's death in China and what it says about the politics of the ruling Communist Party, our reporter Ed Moon spoke with David Bandersky, director of the China Media Project.
What has the official reaction to Li Keqiang's death been like, and how does it compare to the passing of former leaders such as Jiang Zemin last year?
I guess we could say there's no such thing as a private death when it comes to the Chinese Communist Party. So we've seen what we often see with leaders, including senior leaders who pass away, a very boilerplate language. But one thing we can really notice that he's been sidelined. So we had on the 27th, after his death, all we had was a very short, very terse Xinhua news agency announcement that ended with obituary forthcoming. And then the next day we had the obituary, which no really revealing details, just about him as kind of a faithful servant of the party. So definitely, deaths are always a sensitive matter. I think in this case, even more so because as China faces a lot of current economic pain, the former Premier Li Keqiang is associated with more pragmatic policymaking on the economy. And so to the extent he's seen as sidelined by Xi Jinping and by the kind of cult of personality of Xi Jinping, this is a really sensitive current political issue for the party.
Can you tell us a little bit more about how media in China is used to memorialize leaders? Is it a top-down process, or is it up to individual publications to decide how they want to proceed?
This is definitely a top-down matter. There is no discretion for the official party state media, and there's no discretion certainly for the other media, for commercial media, which are still in China linked to the party. But again, we didn't really see much coverage at all in other news websites and portals. It was very downplayed. And this is probably because there were orders from the top, we can surmise, about being very cautious in how it's treated.
Among the Chinese public, there's been mourning for Li, both on social media sites and at various other locations around the country. Can you tell us why there's been such a contrast between the muted official reaction and the public displays of mourning?
Sometimes, in retrospect, leaders who have died become much more lovable after they've passed. So there's a kind of I guess the point is that it becomes an opportunity for ordinary Chinese, if they're upset or if they want to voice their the problems they might have with the leadership and so on. It becomes an opportunity, and the leadership knows this, and this is why it controls it so carefully. But because there's such an interest in controlling the public opinion, sort of in top down on this sensitive issue or moment of Li Keqiang's death, there is, of course, an aggressive attempt to contain any sort of speculation about Li Keqiang's death. For example, on Weibo, and try to search for Li Keqiang, it's generally quite a sanitized thread.
That was David Bandersky from the China Media Project speaking to Ed Moon. Areas near a hospital in Gaza have been hit by Israeli artillery and airstrikes. That's according to the Palestinian Red Crescent, who say about 12,000 people are sheltering in the hospital. Israel made no immediate comment, but continues to bombard the Hamas-controlled territory. Gaza's health ministry says over 8,300 people, including 3,500 children, have been killed in the strikes. An estimated 31 journalists have also died while covering the conflict, which started when Hamas militants raided Israel 3 weeks ago. Global calls for a stop to the violence are growing, but have been rejected by Israeli officials. In a major development in the tech world, U.S. President Joe Biden has signed an executive order on artificial intelligence. It's the country's first major set of controls on the technology that are legally binding.
One thing is clear. To realize the promise of AI and avoid the risk, we need to govern this technology.
The order is a step up from voluntary pledges made by AI companies to tell users when content is AI generated. It now requires developers to share AI safety test results with the government before being released to the public. Leaders around the world have been working to regulate the rapidly changing tech, and that includes the Group of 7 economies, which just signed an 11-point code on AI. All these regulations aim to tackle concerns that the tech could harm consumers, minority groups, and national security. For more on the impact of President Biden's executive order, I spoke with Frank Pascal, an AI law expert and professor at Cornell University. The scope for artificial intelligence is massive, but what are the main concerns or areas that President Biden is trying to control with this new order?
Yeah, that's a terrific question because it is a moving target, definitely, when you think about AI nowadays. But then we can look at the present and the future, near future and far future. We see these much larger, more sophisticated systems like generative AI systems, like the kind of thing behind ChatGPT. And those are things that are more like foundation models that are trying to do lots of things, simulate language, program, do other sorts of things like that. By far, the most emphasis in the executive order is to think about the worst things that could happen with respect to AI that, say, might be used to create pandemics, or that would be used to that might be in charge of infrastructure and fail and malfunction, or be able to be hacked or something like that. In the other areas where we're concerned about AI being biased, about having certain, for example, we've seen AI systems that don't recognize people, certain nationalities, those sorts of biases, that's stuff that is in the executive order, but it's going to remain to be seen how well that gets translated into really a robust action by the agencies in charge of specific things.
This is the first major binding government action on AI to come from the US. And as an AI law expert, do you think it's enough?
Yeah, I think it is a first step. I mean, I think that, that what they're doing with AI safety is encouraging. For a long time, a lot of people in the US were complaining that we were falling behind, that there was something like a Brussels effect, where Brussels and Europe were leading the world with regulation, and we were just trying to catch up. And I think that this is a step towards catching up with the more, say, forceful and robust approach that is being pioneered in Europe.
AI has been a hot topic for some time now, but it's usually riddled with a lot of tech jargon. But in essence, what are the main ways everyday users can expect to see AI show up in their lives?
You're going to be seeing it with respect to, say, customer service and other areas like that. I think that increasingly the big use cases that are being put out are, when you call a company, when you try to buy something, when you try to complain about something, that there'll be going to be a layer of AI between you and the ultimate person you want to reach. I hope to see that in medicine, you'll increasingly see some clinical decision support of how doctors are making their decisions via AI. Because that could be a really useful thing, where the AI could, for example, suggest rare diagnoses or hard diagnoses to a physician. One final example I would give is an increasing thirst for data by AI, from AI. So a lot of these companies are going to want to record what people are doing in their jobs. And that's going to be a cause of a lot of controversy and negotiation over exactly how much they can record of people as they try to figure out how they could make robots who could operate in the world the way the current workers do.
Once again, that was Frank Pascal, a professor of law at Cornell University, joining us from Brooklyn, New York. Back in Taiwan, the bat population is shrinking in parts of the country. But since the animals are essential to the ecosystem, scientists are asking authorities not to bat away the problem, Bing Wang reports.
This old railway tunnel in New Taipei has become a popular spot for ecotourism. Originally built in 1922, trains stopped running here in 1985. Now its main attraction is bats. But scientists managing the site have noticed that over the years, the number has fallen.
可是我们施工期间所的呵护下，蝙蝠都至少都50只以上。那现在的人为干扰比当时我们施工期间还严重。
Open daily for visitors, authorities here have had to set up a reservation system to slow down the impact on bats. Everyone now needs to book a spot before coming. Signs like these were also placed outside the tunnels, telling tourists to not disturb the bats.
像我们告示牌的设计上，我们有增加蝙蝠的图案，以及蝙蝠的一个生长习性，让大家知道说，其实它是一个夜行性的生物。那我们可以就是轻声细语，或是放慢你的脚步这样子。
Currently, there are 38 species of bats in Taiwan. That's down from 69 in 1983. But while the Sandiaoling Tunnel has improved measures to protect the animals, other places have suffered from bat loss as well. In Pingdong, southern Taiwan, bats in another old tunnel dwindled in number after the surrounding woods were cleared due to water conservation projects. As bats play a crucial role in maintaining the ecological balance of various ecosystems, scientists are asking everyone, the public and the authorities, to be more aware and to do what they can to preserve bat habitats. Chris Ma and Bing Wang for TaiwanPlus.
Thank you for watching What's Up Taiwan. I'm Joyce. Have a happy Halloween, and we'll see you next time.